Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Trent, and I see we have some people in the chat already. Saul2112, hello. Glad your new tablet's working well. We talked a little bit about that last week. Hector, welcome back, and of course Brian too, in Cambridgeshire, UK. Yeah, Saul, you're asking if I have any snow here in Massachusetts. So far, so good here. And hi Teek, hope you're staying warm also. And for those who haven't been here before, typically I have some kind of prepared subject related to graphic design or some digital art or something along those lines. And today we're talking about Affinity and MidJourney. So Affinity is kind of the suite of photo editing, vector design programs from Serif. A bunch of tutorials on my channel about that. And MidJourney is a image generation tool. And if you want a more isolated overview of MidJourney, I did a stream a couple weeks ago just about MidJourney, so you can check that out. But of course, we'll be using MidJourney a lot today, and I'm sure you'll kind of absorb the basics as we go through them. Hi, Dandy. Hi, Ayub, Oz, Tanger, and IH. Hope things are all well in Germany. And Sekmatera, hello. So I'll give it a couple minutes for people to come in. I released a video this week, just kind of a little update on this, about the best Adobe alternatives. So I published this a couple days ago or something like that. And of course, we talked about a lot of things in the video. Alternatives, include the Affinity programs for a lot of the design type stuff, and DaVinci Resolve for the video things. Got lots of good feedback on the video. Something I didn't know when I got lots of good feedback in terms of people also mentioning other software as well. But something I didn't realize at the time was that I recommended CapCut as a potential replacement for like mobile video editing. And I didn't realize that CapCut was actually owned by the same people that own TikTok. So apparently it seems like CapCut is also banned here. So let me see. If you search for CapCut, you're going to get this message that it's not actually supported anymore. So I never used it that much. I used it a little bit this past summer just for, I was doing some stuff from just kind of like mobile editing, some quick stuff just for my own friends and stuff like that. And I liked it. It was a fine program, but it's not gonna, I wouldn't be able to edit my videos with it or anything like that. But it was a cool little thing. So apparently that's not going to be around anymore unless the decision is reversed to allow these programs from ByteDance. They're the ones that they're the guys that own all this stuff. So just kind of a little update there. Thought it was kind of interesting. Hello, Junk here, Fritz. Hope you're doing well. And as far as I can tell, my connection is good right now. So I remember a couple weeks ago there's some lag and I had to get off. I think it was due to the weather, but so far the weather is fine today. So as far as I can tell, the connection is good. So let me know if anything goes wrong there. So let's start with Affinity and MidJourney here. And I thought we'd do a quick review of MidJourney, just kind of go over the basics of it if you haven't seen it. We'll just kind of talk about what it essentially is. I'll just maximize this too while I'm talking about it. So this is the MidJourney website, midjourney.com. And it used to be a Discord app. It still is, but now I do most of all the stuff on the website because I think it just has so much more functionality. And you can see over on the left, we have our options, a lot of our main tools here. There's a couple I'll show you throughout this video, specifically the edit one. And the Explore tab here is one of the most useful features in MidJourney. You can actually search other people's creations that they've made public. So you can see here on the front page, I see all these, I guess these are the top voted videos from today. I should mention occasionally something inappropriate comes up. I'll try to go by it quickly, but I can't guarantee what you will or won't see. But you can see quite a variety of styles here. I mean, kind of this boho modern art style over here. You have some hyper-realistic stuff, and you have some other stuff that is more stylized. But, there's lots of really interesting use cases, I think. Even stuff like this. I mean, people could really, I know certain companies or people that could use mock-ups like this and just a really wide variety of stuff these days. So this is, and you can search for things too. So if I have the search bar up here, I can type dragons and I can see all sorts of different options here. And you can browse like what's available. And if you click on one of them, you get details for how they created the design. So you can see the prompt over here, and then you can click it and reuse it yourself if you like. So that's always an option there. And one of the other options is, of course, you can create your own stuff. So you can click to the create button, and this is where you can start typing things that you want to see. So if I wanted to see a stained glass dragon, I could type it here. And I'll hit enter in a second, but I also have these other options here, this option panel. Oops, so I'll click that. And, you know, I talked about these a little bit in the previous video, so I won't go over them too much. But the one I'll draw your attention to the most is just the image size over here. I can change the dimensions. So maybe I want it to be wider here. So I'll drag it like that. Maybe I want it to be like 16 by 9, which is basically the YouTube thumbnail dimensions. They're close to that. And I can hit enter. And it'll start to generate my image. It'll actually give you 4 results when it does it. And it comes in pretty quickly. I actually have it enabled on turbo mode for this stream. So when you set up turbo mode, it generates the things faster, but it costs more of your credits or your time. So I usually don't do it, but I just do it for the stream to make things, you know, faster, more efficient. So, you know, you can click on the things here. And what you can do, one thing I really like about it is the ability to pan and expand. So maybe I like this, but I don't like how the top of the dragon is cut off. So I can click I have many options here, but I'll click the pan option. I'll click pan up. And then if I go back to my creation queuing over here, it's going to be start the job. And that's going to start to try to create more stuff up here. And maybe I don't like any of those things, right? So let me click on this. Let's see like one that's kind of close there. I'll click on this one. You can also do in-painting. So if I don't like this part here, what I can do is I can click editor down here. So editor. And this will let me actually paint out parts I want it to redo. So let's say I don't like this. I want it to redo that. So I'll paint it out, and then I'll click submit again. And I'll go back to my creation. Hi, Tactical Nomad. And CJJ, hello, also from Germany. The otter at the bar. Yeah, sometimes you see very strange things, Teak. So again, it didn't quite do what I wanted, but you can see it gave me more options here. And I think today I'll mostly be using examples from the Explore tab, just so, you know, we don't have to wait for things to generate. So I'll just be searching for things and using stuff here. But we'll kind of do that just to save time. I think there's plenty of options here that will help us, you know, see what's what. So that's a crash course in it. Like I said, I have a longer stream from a couple of weeks ago you can look at, and I'll probably put together a beginner video soon on some of these things. So let's start on a couple things here. So I titled this video MidJourney plus Affinity, and this stream MidJourney plus Affinity. And it's kind of like, I guess the motivation of this was that I see a lot of people just using what the AI tools give them without changing it or without modifying it and making adjustments. And a lot of times when I use the output, I make some types of adjustments. So I wanted to show you guys kind of what I do in things. Later on, we'll look at some mock-ups, like how you can use the AI for mock-ups combined with Affinity, how you can do I'll show you how I made some of the thumbnails on my channel. So that will, I'll show you how, you know, we can combine different assets from different resources to create a thumbnail. And that's kind of my motivation for this stream, how you use these two things together. If you want to use another program other than Affinity, you can do exactly most of the stuff I'm going to show you today, whether you're on Krita or Procreate or even Photoshop or something. It's more just about, you know, how do you modify things. So let's look at some basic adjustments here. Let's go back to MidJourney. And we can search for some stuff. I thought, you know, if you guys have topics you want to search for, let me know. I thought I'd search for nights. So these are nights. Maybe I can type real. And we have some subjects here. Now, one thing I find with MidJourney is that there tends to be low contrast in a lot of the images. And that's actually not a bad thing. And I'll show you what I mean by low contrast. Let me find like a good example of something that's like kind of screams low contrast. There's a lot of them that have lower contrast here. But let's see. Maybe something like this. So let me copy this. Allegedly trouble. You gave up on all that. You just play with making patterns now. Okay. Well, maybe we can show you some new things today that'll help. So I have this image of a night here, and you can see it's kind of low contrast. Let's look at the histogram for a second. So if I go to Window, I'm in Affinity Photo, by the way, and histogram. Let me expand this. And I don't know if you noticed how I brought this in here. What I do is I right-click on it, and I say Copy Image. And then in Affinity Photo, a very quick way to make a new document in Affinity Photo is to say File, New from Clipboard, and it just copies, it'll just create a new document based on what you copied to your clipboard. So that's a quick little tip I like. But one of the things you can see about this image is there isn't really any black in it. And this is a histogram here. And I don't like look at histograms as I'm doing things. I'm just showing it to you as an example to kind of conceptually explain what's happening. But what's happening is for a histogram, what you have is on the left you have your darks, and over on the right you have your brights, your whites, if you will. And what happens is this is just giving you a count of how the values throughout your image. So you can see we don't have really any blacks because it's very low here. We have a lot of these kind of darker grays, but no pure blacks. And you can see there's like very little in the image that's white over here. So that's what a histogram is showing us. And like I said, I don't like necessarily open a histogram whenever I open an image, but it kind of helps to show this point here of like what's going on with the image. And technically low contrast is when your image is kind of all compressed in the middle. So let's look at how we can actually change this. Now in Affinity Photo, in Affinity Designer also, we have the Adjustments tab down here. So these are our adjustments. So I'll click on this. And what I'll do is I'll add a levels adjustment. So that one's at the top here, levels, and I'll click levels. And can I make this all fit? Let's move this up. So this is my levels tool down here. Now the levels tool it shows you the exact same histogram as up here. So it's the same data. And what we can do is kind of two of the key controls are the black level and the white level down here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the black level up. And then what you can see is our image got darker. And the reason is we kind of recalibrated our image to make the black point like this stuff here. So we said drag our image, to the left so that we're making this, whatever this gray is, we want that to be black, okay? And you can see what happened to our histogram here. We kind of closed that gap. Actually, I could increase well, I'll show you that after. Let's close the white gap here. So if I drag the white part there, I could actually get some white areas too. Let's do a really extreme example. So this is of course very extreme, but it's saying, at this cutoff point, whatever this cutoff level is here, make all these values white. And then I have this other line here. I'm not sure if you can see it. Make everything below it pure black. Okay. Now you usually don't want to do it this extreme. Let me reset it. Typically what you want to do is kind of close these gaps. So I'll drag the black level up. And I don't know if this really needs any white adjustment, but I'll do it. And that's kind of a change you can make. So let me toggle this on and off. So this is before, after. Before, after. So you can see it just has a little more contrast and pop to it when you make these adjustments. Now, by the way, the opposites, I mentioned like what is the definition of high contrast or low contrast. Low contrast is when your image is just completely all smashed together in the middle like that. And the way you can do that is you can adjust the output black levels and output white levels down here. So these kind of do the opposite, and let me just kind of show you what they do. So if I push the black level up this way, what I'm actually doing is shifting the black level to the right. And if I push the white to the left, I'm actually pushing the white to the left there. So you can see now my image is very gray, and that's because it's all contained in this middle area here, all right? So that's low contrast. Hi, Demetrius. So this is a very common adjustment I make for images in MidJourney. Let's see if we can find another example here of like a contrast adjustment. I I don't know, castle. Like if something has like kind of a grayish hue to it, it kind of tells you. Castle photo. This is a low contrast image here, so let's look at this. So I can tell you right now that this is gonna have like, it's gonna have big gaps on the left and on the right of the histogram. Okay, so let's look at the histogram. Window, histogram. And there we see it. Okay, so it has this big gap on the left. There's no pure blacks. And it has this other gap on the right here. There's very few pure whites. So we can use the levels adjustment again. Let's try that. I'll do levels. And what we can do is we can close these gaps. So I'll drag the black level to this way. I'll drag the white one this way. And there's some kind of subtlety because the channels are different too. But for the most part, we'll just kind of maybe get it to the red there. And you can see, let's do before and after again. So before, after. Before, after. You can also do it with the curves adjustment if you like. So let me delete this. The curves equivalent would be basically an S curve. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to make the brights brighter and the darks darker. So the brights are the top half of our curve. So the curve kind of works similar to the levels, except we have, whoops, let me show you this here. So this is our black point, and this is our white down here. And then we're mapping it to an output of black and white. So when you have a perfectly 45-degree angle, there's no change. Like your 50% input is, your 50% gray point is going to your 50% output. So it's all the same. But let me increase the brights here. So if I drag this up, I'm lightening the whole image. And if I do this, you can kind of see why. Like everything, all the output is going to pure white up here. Okay, and if I drag it down, like everything is going pure black down there. So the question is like, what do we actually want to do here? Well, we can actually add multiple points to a curve. So I can drag the top part up. And then if I click the bottom part, I can drag that down. And we can get contrast again. And this is essentially like 99% of the time, I think this is what people do with curves. They just do something like this where you increase the top brightness a little bit and decrease the darkness a little bit. So you're making the brights brighter and the darks darker. And what we've done here is we've actually added contrast. And let me go to the window again, the histogram. Hey, Samoa. And is this showing, let me see. Yeah, so this is basically the definition of high contrast, is when you have a peak in the darks and a peak in the brights. Okay, so we've really separated the thing here. So we have the bright sky contrasting with the dark area below it. So this is kind of the definition of high contrast. A peak down in the dark, a gap, and then a peak over here. Okay. And let's see if we can actually, like, if we use the contrast adjustment, what happens if we do that? Brightness and contrast. So if I drag this contrast up, my prediction is that these peaks will separate from each other. So yeah, they're separating. That's what contrast does. And then if I decrease the contrast down here, you're going to see them kind of crunch into the middle here. So if I drag it this way, they're kind of crunching into the middle like that. So that's low contrast. So it probably matches what you've done on, your TV screen or your monitor or something like that. So that's kind of one of the basic settings I do a lot. We saw contrast levels and curves. Let's look at some color adjustments that I think are pretty common to make with these designs. Let's see. Usually umbrellas are pretty colorful. Let's do color. So we have all these images of umbrellas and stuff like that going through. Just trying to find one that might be interesting to use. So this is kind of like a cool composition. And of course you could try to regenerate it with different colors. but maybe you wanted to like, you love this image, but you just want to change the yellow to blue or something. So let's copy this image. I'll close these. So we're looking at color adjustments now. And what you can do is you can use HSL adjustments. So HSL stands for hue, saturation, and lightness. It's another way of visualizing the colors instead of just RGB. So that's, again, if you haven't used it before, that's going to be an adjustment down here. So I'll click this adjustment. And I'll select HSL here. Now what you can do is you kind of rotate the whole image. So you have these three controls, the hue, saturation, and luminosity. I could rotate like everything and change the colors if I liked. But you can also, let me reset it. You can target specific colors. So let's say I just want to change the yellow. I can click the yellow here. And I can rotate it around. And let's make it some type of, I don't know, maybe blue. Let's find a blue. Maybe like that. Now, a lot of times what happens is if you just rotate the hue, it's not going to look as good because you also have to adjust the saturation and lightness a little bit. So maybe this looks a little bit, first of all, I can see a little bit of bleeding here. So maybe we want to increase this band a little bit. Maybe that captures a little bit more. And then, you know, you can change the saturation as you like as well to maybe make it look a little more realistic. You kind of have to play with it a little bit to see like what looks good or not there. Another thing you can do is use a pixel layer. So let me show you an image where we could do that. So you can like do pixel painting. I saw this image here. This is a good example of using MidJourney or something like that to create assets for like a design. So you could use this as part of something else. I thought it was kind of an interesting one. Let me let's look at this. Let's say I want to make his eyes more blue. So let's look at how we could do that. What I would probably do here is I would use a brush to paint and make his eyes more blue, and I would combine it with a blend mode. So let's zoom in a little bit here. So if I click the pixel layer here, this is how I can actually paint on it. You could paint on this image itself, but that would be destructive. So we want to try to have a non-destructive technique here. And I'm going to select my brush over here, my paintbrush. Is that showing up on screen? Hopefully. And I'll just use some type of soft round brush. And for color, let's give him like these blue eyes here. So let's zoom in. Yeah, I can paint in like this. Maybe I could go like this. And now what I can do is I can change the blend mode of this pixel layer. So this is the pixel layer is by itself. And typically like color would be good, or hue, or, so there we have color. Now maybe it's a little bit strong. Let me do this off and on. So off, on, off, on. Let me, you can change the opacity of it. So maybe we can turn it down a little bit so it's a little more subtle. We could also go and, again, hit this with our levels adjustment. So let's see what this looks like on the histogram. Well, the histogram is going to be a mess because there's a white background. So yeah, it's like that. But we can see there's no pure black, actually. So all these dark colors, we're not getting black in there. So let's add some levels adjustment. Is that going to the whole thing? It's not going to the whole thing. Let's go, let's put it just on the kid there. Yeah, we'll just drag it up a bit. Maybe add a little more white. So there we go. So we've changed his eyes and the contrast. So before, after, before, after. We could also increase the vibrance a little bit. So that's one I like. If you go to adjustments again, you have vibrance here. So this is the vibrance one. And vibrance is kind of it's like a smarter version of saturation. Let me crank up the saturation and show what happens. If you crank up the saturation, it gets like very bad very quick because you're just kind of maxing out a lot of your color channels, and it's not, it doesn't kind of intelligently know the relationships between colors. So it just kind of increases the saturation of all of them. Vibrance is a little bit smarter, if for lack of a better term. I'll dial it up. You can dial up quite a bit, and it's going to look, you know, relatively okay. So let's see, before, after. It's very subtle, before, after. We could also increase the saturation like a little bit if we wanted, like so. So there you have an example of, you know, changing the color of something. If you wanted to change his tie, right, we could also add another pixel layer. Maybe I want him to have a green tie instead. So I'll just do this like, I'll just do like a very quick little thing here. We could go in and change the way it looks. You know, you would do a better selection in real life. But let's make him have a green tie here. Just get those points. And then what I'll do is I'll change the blend mode. Let's try, I don't know, color. So now he has a green tie. And one thing I often do is like I'll block in the color like this. And instead of like repainting it, I'll just add like an HSL adjustment to it. And then I'll experiment with different colors. So what I did is I added an HSL adjustment to my tie here. This is the tie. And I can just see like, okay, like what's a better color for it? You know, we can kind of rotate around. So I don't have to like repaint it a different color. I can just experiment with different, I can just drag the slider around to try different combinations here. And like I said, a lot of times like you're going to want to change the, probably the saturation a little bit too. So it's not as you know, jarring. Maybe the brightness levels a little bit. So, you know, you can do different things. Yeah, the eye color is super easy to change. I like that that trick. So it's a way to do it. So we changed the tie color also. Not sure if that's better or worse, but it's a possibility there. Let's see if we have any other interesting. Well, yeah, those are kind of the main things I would say about color. Let me do one more technique. Let's see. I found some Renaissance paintings that were kind of interesting. So lots of these are kind of cool. Maybe some contrast could also be added in there. This one looks kind of interesting. And you know, the joke was always like hands are bad and stuff like that with AI, but I think, you know, it's getting much better. I mean, it's all the time it's getting improved. So here we could add some let's do some levels. Yeah, a little contrast. And it's kind of good that we have it low contrast to begin with. I know a lot of people, they have this, they get frustrated when they get the photos out of their camera because it has kind of this gray hue to it, or this gray, you know, overcast to it. But it actually gives you more flexibility when you have all your image data in the middle of the spectrum, and then you can kind of determine how you want to pull it apart and where you want your black levels and white levels to be. Tasteful thickness. Can you use the lasso tool to just target the tie if other parts of the photo are affected? Yeah, definitely. You could use the lasso tool to like, yeah, create like an area, you know, that you want it to only be affected that way. But basically, so I could, you know, I'd obviously draw a better version if I was going to do that method. When I did this method here, the HSL adjustment, it was just affected the pixels that I painted. So it was just affecting this stuff here. It wasn't affecting the other stuff. But you could also use the lasso tool to like create a mask, basically, so the other parts of your photo aren't affected. But you could also, you know, going on to like another color adjustment technique, you know, we could color the eyes again here. That's always kind of a fun one. But you also have the other stuff like the white balance here. So the white balance. And this is going to be your kind of warm and cool. So if you want to make a warmer image, let's make it very warm like that. We can make it cooler, you know, that kind of thing. So let's make it a little bit warmer. So let's, so this is our before, after, before, after. So lots of adjustments you can make for the coloring and things like that. Let's move on here. Generative fill. So this is a big one these days. A lot of the tools are having these generative fill options. So let me show you an example of what it is. Generative fill means you erase part of your image and parts of it are filled in by the tool, or you expand part of your image and it can actually fill things in. So let's take this image here. I'll copy it. I just, I go to Unsplash to get photos. They're here if you're curious, but lots of great resources there. Now let's look at what Affinity does for generative fill. It's kind of basic. It doesn't really do a lot in terms of generative fill. So let me show you. So one of the first things you need to do is it needs to work on a raster layer. We've talked about this a little bit before, the difference between image layers and raster layers. So image layers are going to be non-destructive. So when I paste a photo in, by default, it's an image layer. So I'm just going to right-click on it and rasterize it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but that's kind of the thing you need to do. Now let's expand this a little bit, like that. So what I did is I click this button here, the crop tool, and that allows us to expand our canvas. So I'll click apply. So we have this empty gap here, and the question is there a way we can magically fill in the area? And in Affinity, there is a tool to do that. If you right-click on your selections, let me click the rectangular marquee tool. I'll kind of select all this area here. So I've selected the empty space and also a little bit of my canvas. Now what I'm going to do is I'll select edit, and I'm going to say in paint down here. Okay, so I'll click in paint, and it'll work its magic. And then it tries to fill it in. So I'll press Control D. Let me see if I can do that on a different layer. I've never tried it. It might only work on the same layer. Edit, in paint. Yeah, I don't think it's doing anything. I think I have to go to like the same layer it's on. So edit. So that's a little bit of a downside because you're kind of destroying a little bit of your image. So here we have the adjustment, and it's not bad, but it's very limited because what it's going to do is it's just going to copy the areas. Essentially, it's just going to copy the areas and use that as new data. Okay, and then what you can do is you can kind of touch things up a little bit. So here, we see this very abrupt change. I can select the in-painting brush, which is this one down here, in-painting brush. And let's just like draw down that edge and see if it fixes it a little bit. So I'll do this. And it erased it. Let me go closer. So this is the in-painting brush. And it kind of erased it a little bit. And it's trying to it pulls in imagery from the surrounding area to kind of make it look natural. But sometimes, it has mixed results. Again, we have a straight edge here. Let's make that look a little bit better. It kind of, now what it can't do is it can't give you like really extreme changes. So if I go like way out this way and way down this way and way down this way, let's do this. I don't know what this is going to do. Let's try it. So I clicked the rectangular tool. I selected this. So you can see it's just kind of like doubling things up, right? So there's a limit to how effective it is. Now the good news is that MidJourney actually has this option too. So let me save this image, save it onto my computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and then I'll upload it to MidJourney. And actually I could do it directly from with a URL, but I'll just save it and upload it. That's the foolproof method, because sometimes MidJourney can't access the file on the internet. Like if you're logged into some system. All right. So let's do this the MidJourney way. So I'll go back to MidJourney here. So from the home page, excuse me, what we're going to want to do is we want to click this edit button here. Sorry, it's dry. So I'll click this edit button here. Then what I can do is I can edit a photo from a URL, assuming the photo is publicly available, or I can upload something. So let's upload the image here. So this is the van I just downloaded. I'll click open. And what I can do is you can see these handles on the edge. So let me expand it a little bit this way. Let's go up. Let's go down. So what I can do now is I can click submit edit. So if I click submit edit, it's actually not going to work at first because it wants some type of description here about like what you're trying to do with the image, like what type of content are you trying to fill in. So there's a really easy way to actually fill in content here. There's this button called Suggest Prompts, which I'm hoping is available. Let me make this that size again. It's kind of hiding it if I make it too small, so I'll keep it bigger for now and I'll change it back later. But if I click Suggest Prompts, what it does is it looks at your image and that tries to create a prompt for it. So here's the prompt here. It automatically generated this based on when I click the Suggest Prompt by analyzing this photo here. So now if I click Submit Edit, now it'll actually go do its work. And it takes, I don't know, a couple seconds or so, depending. And like creating an image from scratch, it's going to give me 4 options, which hopefully it will start doing soon. So now it's going. Once it gets going, it's pretty good. So now we have the MidJourney automatic fill in. Okay. So I think it's actually pretty interesting here. I'll click through them. So we can even go even further. I mean, we can also, I'm not sure if you guys can see this part here. I don't know where it is on the minimized version. Okay, I can change the aspect ratio too. And this is a very common use case of this. What if I want to take this, I want to like have it on a mobile perspective or something? Well, I can do 9:16. I mean, let's submit this and see what it does. I have no idea like how good this is going to be. Mr. Joe, reading your comment. So you can duplicate the pixel layer and do the inpainting on that layer. Then you'll have inpaint on a separate layer. Okay. Just have to delete the non-painted section. Yeah, so I guess you could create 2 layers, do the inpainting, and then delete the stuff that you're not using. Yeah, and have your original. Yeah. It's a good suggestion. Thanks. Definitely there's always ways to do it. So sometimes when you do this, it kind of gives you extra, it thinks you're looking at a sign or a phone or something. But if I click at the other options, I mean, this one here is actually really impressive here. So what I'll do now is I'll, again, when it's minimized, I don't know where the buttons go. I'll upscale this to the gallery. So let's upscale the gallery. So this is the MidJourney expansion of that image here. So let's get the full version here. Then we can compare it to our original. Let me this is our original. Let's see what MidJourney gave us. It's doing its thing. It's upscaling. MidJourney really cheating there. How so? You mean definitely there are parts where like it kind of it screws up some things. So sometimes you have to like erase it and rerun it. So I could like click the erase button and erase this and redo it. So yeah, it depends on the image. Let's copy this image. And whoops. Copy image. I don't know why it didn't work. There we go. So yeah, you can see all this extra content we got with MidJourney there. So it's really nice, like if you're taking your own photos and maybe you want to format something to fit another dimension better. Definitely lots of options. And like I said, you can if you want to tweak it further, you could go and change things. You could erase part of the area and things like that. Let's see. Let's look at like one other image to see how it does. So if I go to Unsplash here, close all this stuff. I can see their trending topics. Where else is trending? Searches. Let's find something like hard with people, like I don't know, like a road race or something. Some of these would be kind of tricky to do. I want to find one where it's like someone is like part on and part off an image. Like, let's see. Let's see similar ones to this. They have those stock photo ones that are. Is this one free? Yeah, this one's free. Okay, let me. Let's try this one because this is like cut off here. So maybe you wanted like the whole thing. Let's see like what happens here. bike. So let's go back to MidJourney. It's bigger. So I will do a new one. Let me edit from URL this time to show you that that's possible. So if I open this image in a new tab, I have the URL here. So I'll just copy this, and I'll go back to MidJourney, and I'll say edit from URL, and I'll paste that in there. So this is the Unsplash link, and I'll click OK. And it should work there. Let's bring this up more. Let's get more of the bike. And hopefully it'll get his head correctly. So let's we'll do suggest prompt so we can have it describe the thing for us. And I'll say submit edit. And it's going there. I think the job gets scheduled, and then like once it starts processing it, it's pretty fast. Here it goes. All right, so here we have the expanded image. So, whoops. So this is one version. There's another, and another. I think they're all pretty good. The thing I would keep an eye on is the bicycle wheels itself, but you know, some of them look a little not exactly round, but I think it's pretty decent you know, in-painting job it did there. So that's kind of the generative fill properties, and like I said, you can do this with your own photos. You can expand things. Hi Tactical Nomad. Not sure if I said hi earlier to you, but welcome. So that's the generative fill options. So it's quite useful there. And like I said, the one in Affinity is a little basic. It kind of, I think it's just more algorithmic. It just kind of grabs part of your image and copies it. Whereas, you know, MidJourney is going to be using some type of data set to intelligently do it. Something that's asked a lot is upscaling. And I thought I would talk a little bit about that here. Two tools that I use often are Topaz Photo AI and also Canva sometimes too. Now, I'm not sure if you guys use Topaz at all. Let me start it up here. I have it somewhere. Where is it? Yeah, here. So Topaz Photo AI, let me go to the website. I bought it a couple years ago, and it's good for my purposes. I haven't upgraded it in about a year, so I don't have the super latest version, but I have the like I said, the model is from like a year or so ago. And I find it to be pretty beneficial in terms of like upscaling things in that regard. Let me show you how it works here. So let's find an image in MidJourney. Let's go back to the Explore tab. I want to find something like with a person in it, like because that's kind of a good idea of like upscaling a human. I think is a good test of like, does the upscaler actually work? Let me find like a realistic photo. I want something that looks like a real person here. This one. I guess if this one kind of looks like a real person. Maybe not anatomically correct, but let's save this image here. Let's just say man. So I'll save it as PNG. And there is a way you can connect, I think, Topaz to Affinity, but I haven't done it that much. I usually just open up Topaz beforehand and then just do it that way. So here I am in Topaz here. Let's see if I can. Their UI, I don't think it lets you like adjust it as easily. Yeah, you can't adjust the size for some reason. So I'll just have to keep it maximized for the time being. But I'll click Browse Images here. And then let's find this one of the guy I just did. So you have all these different options here, and some of them are better than others. For the most part, I just want to do upscale. I don't really go crazy with the other ones at all. I don't even like the face thing too much. But let's see if you can see the difference here. I don't want to. Well, maybe I will try recovering face. So let's see if you can see. So on the left is the original, and on the right is the upscaled version, okay? So can I scale in some more? So you can see, with the eyes, you can see all the pixelization here, and then it's fairly smooth on this side. So this is the Topaz AI one. It works pretty good for my purposes. We can go back and forth over it. It may be hard to see on the YouTube stream, but let's go to the eyes really close. So this is like the eye. Like the left is a low resolution, and then the right is the higher resolution there. It also can work well with like more graphic design elements like logos and stuff. So let's do logo. Let's see. Well, let's do something like this. So I'll load this in. You can see it's definitely very pixelized there. So it's kind of like the left is the before and the right is the after. And sometimes you get kind of noise in there too. So there's a little bit of noise there. Maybe that needs to be cleaned up or something. You could also try this in a vectorizer tool. But this is the one I use the most. And like I said, the subscription is about, my subscription for that is about a year old. So I don't have like the latest model from the last couple months or something. But it's still good enough for my purposes. I would say keep an eye on it for when it's on sale. And Canva also has one. I won't go into that just for time reasons, but it does have an upscaler tool. Pac-Man, reading your comments. So you're saying hopefully with 2.6, it might go into the inpainting function. Yeah, I think with 2.6, like it's going to do that object selection features with the machine learning they're calling it. In the past, they've said stuff where they're not really interested in like a lot of the AI stuff, but I don't know if that's going to be changing in the future. I think it's just becoming like a critical function that they're going to have to support if they want to remain competitive on anything. So that's just kind of my take on it. Again, I have no insider knowledge or anything. One thing that's really useful for a use case is making design assets. And this is kind of one that I hinted at a little bit earlier, but there's lots of options here for kind of creating things that you just might use in designs, separate from just an image. Like a lot of these that you're looking at right now they're kind of, self-contained images, but there's many moments where you want to create things that maybe you want to cut and paste them into a bigger program. Like I just showed you with that logo one. There's a couple terms I like to use. One is like sticker sheet. If you're looking for art, like this is a good way to create like a kind of a page that has like a bunch of different options here. Mr. Joe, yeah, you're saying Affinity has to embrace AI to stay current. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, you have to remain competitive with the other people out there. So I like to do this sticker sheet option when I'm doing something because it kind of gives you like a little palette here of things you can work with. And then what you could do is you could use a background remover or something to get some of these out of it. Some of these are kind of crazy, like, okay, maybe this one isn't very good, but, this one's fine. You could get that, get this one. It's almost like you get multiple images for the price of one in a way. Let's try creating one. What did I did sticker sheet. Actually, I think I did one once before, like ice cream cone. Am I on the create? Yeah, I'm on the explore. Create. Ice cream cone, sticker sheet. Let's see what happens here. And it helps if you do kind of an appropriate ratio, like aspect ratio. Aspect ratio affects a lot of times the composition, obviously, but it kind of affects what is shown and what's not shown. So I'll say colorful. Yeah, let's try that. My prompting skills aren't like super elite. I just kind of type what I want. There's all sorts of theory on like what, the best things to type and all that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So you can hear sometimes I get better results than others. Maybe you can also try like white background. Say colorful cones, watercolor, white background. White background is a very common phrase I use because it makes things very easy to isolate. So right now MidJourney can't do transparent PNGs. It should be very simple to do in the future. I don't know why they haven't done it. But if you do white background, it will, give you a white background usually. And then you can use a background removal tool. So this one came out pretty well. Like you could cut these out and use these for graphics, So so sticker sheet is one I like a lot. Another one is asset sheet. And I mean, this is really good if you're like, making game assets or something like this. It could be a starter place for creating those types of things. We have this type of stuff happening. So you can see the complexity of the prompt here. Tasteful thickness, you're saying you can have ChatGPT create your prompts. Yes, yeah, so that's definitely a thing too. I was doing that a little bit for a while. Now mostly I look at the Explore tab and I use things that other people have used, and that's kind of one of the best options. But this option here too, asset sheet, will give you lots of stuff. You can do it for other things like it doesn't have to be like this kind of pixel art, although that's a popular use case. I don't know like what another type of asset sheet would be. Maybe it's like a home and garden, asset sheet. Who knows what this will. So again, this is kind of the very much used for games, but if you had other use cases too, this could be used for that. Very interesting things here. Just like lots of cool stuff you could use. And you'd use a background remover to get these out of there. You could also type clip art. So I typed clip art. And this is another one that has, clip art to me always had a bad ring to it. I never liked that term. I always kind of associate it with like the cheap stuff you find in MS Word by default, right? But certainly, you can, if you type this, you can find certainly interesting things there, especially if you add like art styles, like watercolor. You can get better designs like that. So lots of options here to explore. And if you see something you like, you can like click it, get the description, and then do it in your own style. So let's look at this one here. Cute baby elements for planner and watercolor. So maybe I want to say, cute space elements for planner and watercolor. Let's try this one. Let's see like how similar it is. So I took the prompt and I just replaced it with something else here. So here we have like a totally new thing, right? So now we have planets in that same style. So something like this, right? So we saw a style we liked and we just kind of changed the subject matter for it. Another thing you can do is mock-ups. So that's a huge category here. So if I type mock-up, you can see some of them are more useful than others. So you get kind of these, I guess these kind of like a lot of these like ebook and pamphlet type mock-ups. But one of the really powerful things is like t-shirt mock-ups or something. So let's do t-shirt. And here we have a bunch of mock-ups for t-shirts. And you can type like a person with it too, like, I don't know, male. Oh, it said nothing. Man. So you can see these types of things here. Now what you can do is you can actually, use these and then put your own designs on them. So let's find one that has like an interesting perspective on it. I think this one, you could take this. So let's copy this image. And then what we could do is we could look for a design to put on it. So let's see what we can find here. Say like skull design. So let's find something that's like interesting. Lots of kind of, let's say, let's say this one. So I'll say copy image. And I'll just paste it in my document here. Edit, paste. Now, there's kind of different ways to do this. Fortunately, this one, with a black and white image, it's fairly straightforward. You can usually do something like multiply, and it will work well. Now, the problem with this image is that the back wasn't pure white. So let me put that back to normal. What we can do is we can use our friend, the level tool, which we saw before, right? So I'll add the levels to this. Let's go to levels. And what I want, because I'm going to do the multiply option, is I want the pure, I want to get these white, I want this gray parts here. These like very light grays. I want them to be pure white, so that way when I do the multiply option, they'll disappear. So let's do that there. So let's see if I want to dial down the white level. Like this. So that should be pure white, I think. Yeah, so if it says 255, 255. Now when I do multiply, it's basically seamless. You can't see that, you can't see any seam anymore. Whereas if I didn't have the levels adjustment there, that's what would happen. So if I adjust the levels, you can see this is the benefit of one of the levels tools. I'm erasing this white here. And then this looks kind of gray here. I want this to be blacker, so I'm going to dial up the black level. I'm going to get like a black look there. You can kind of place it where we like. And you can kind of dial down the opacity maybe. I guess dialing down the opacity is, well, it's different than making it gray. Because when I dial down the opacity, you're seeing a little bit of the shadows through here. So it is kind of a different effect going on. So there we've created a mock-up based on, you know, just the two separate images, right? Very straightforward. You know, we had this image here. And like I said before, you can, let's say I want to adjust the contrast for my whole image. I'm always kind of guilty of over-saturating and adding too much contrast, but I like it. Maybe that's too bright there. You can also add a vignette effect too. So that's a live filter here. So there's live filters. And somewhere there's vignettes. Here it is, vignette. So vignette is when you darken the corners and the images a little. So if I do an extreme example, like this is an extreme example of the vignette. So but it helps bring focus a little bit to the center. And let's kind of maybe get it like that. So it just brings a little more, it kind of draws the eye to the middle a little more. So before, after, before, after. So certainly with mock-ups and things like that, there's tons of things you can do. Let me show you one other thing. Let me export this. Now, one thing we can do is totally change this background with the in-painting tool in MidJourney. So let's export this. I'll make it as a PNG. It's 1024 by 1024. You know, we could upscale that if we wanted, but I'll just leave it like that for now. Let's say a t-shirt mock-up. Let's go back to MidJourney here. And let's do a new one. So I'll upload this one because doesn't exist anywhere else except my computer. So, whoops. What I can do is I can erase like outside of my image here. And something I hope they do in the future is I think they're gonna, you know, improve the selection tools and all that. But let's like get rid of all this background here. Like so. Right now it's like a very crude brush they give you. It doesn't really do, you know, a lot in terms of like intelligently selecting your subject, as far as I know. But let's like erase all this stuff, and I'll make it a little bit smaller. Get in there. I think it's better to over erase to give it more flexibility in what to do than to erase too little. And then I have to give some type of prompt, like, I don't know, men wearing a t-shirt standing on Mars. Let's see what this does. I have no clue what this will do. I missed a little bit of his neck there, but hopefully that will be not critical. So we didn't really get much of a description there. I was kind of hoping for more, but I guess maybe I just had to like erase more and add a better description to it. Because yeah, it did give me a variety of changes. So one thing I think is like if you get those default mockups from like Printify or something like that, you can erase the background and give it like a different look. So maybe, you know, every single other person on Etsy has like this, you know, they have all this common stuff here. You know, you can go in and you can go and have a little bit of variety like this. And like I said, you can kind of go back and forth. Like you can actually like, maybe you want to make this background blue or something. You can do that as well in Affinity Photo. So there's lots of options to kind of go and modify stuff. So that's kind of the mockups and graphic design assets. I thought one of the last things I'd do is just kind of show you some of the thumbnails I've made for my channel and how I've used them, how I've kind of mixed them up with you know, MidJourney and stuff to kind of create some effects. So let's look at that. The first one I'll start with is the thumbnail for this stream. So this is the I don't have the font installed on this computer, but this is basically, you know, obviously an image I got from MidJourney here that I created it with. And let's turn off the spelling. I hate that. And let me show you the original image. Let's copy and paste this. So yeah, that's like what the image originally looked like. Actually, it looked even worse. Let me delete this. So on the left, you see kind of the final version. If I can make it, I'll make it bigger for a moment. So this is what MidJourney gave me here on the right. There's some default text I just used. So this is what MidJourney gave me here on the right. And on the left is the color corrections I did to it. And the main corrections I did, let's look at that here. So I did a lot of like exposure, vibrance, and curves there. So if I select these, if I turn this off, you can see it's kind of grayish and a little bit blander there. So that's the before, then after. Let me hide that so it's not, whoops, make it a little less distracting. And then I also increased the color of her hair. So I made this pixel layer, and literally like this was me painting on the woman to give her a little more saturation. Actually, this layer was set to saturation here. So let's look at that. So without it, like this was before, and that's after. So I think I have a reputation for probably going a little oversaturated on things, but I think it's better than being undersaturated. So I did that there. So that's kind of an example of you know, whoops, of like a real life example of how I would use how I've actually modified an image to be used in a thumbnail like so. Let's get another one. See. So recently I made this thumbnail for the Adobe video, and that used it used a combination of MidJourney elements and also some other assets. Let's see here. No Problem Teak. Where's the other one? So this was the I'll show you the thumbnail. The Adobe replacement one. When it loads here. Yeah, there's a reason all the TVs in the store are set to vivid. Yeah, and that's like, you know, on YouTube, you want to stand out, right, amongst all the dozens of other thumbnails that are around your video. So you gotta be somewhat obvious. So I don't have the font installed on this computer, so the title looks bad. But this is my replace Adobe thumbnail, and actually, it's kind of a combination of things. I used this money pile here, and I believe if I go to MidJourney, I think what I did was I generated something based on, if I go to the create, it was like burning cash or something. Yeah, this was the one here. So I just took like a pile of burning cash. That was my prompt, and I got this. And then I could have fixed it a little bit, but I didn't really bother too much. So it's kind of a combination of two things. So we have this image here, which is like, you know, the cache for the fire. And I just duplicated it on the background. Now the trash can actually wasn't made in AI. I used I have a subscription to a site called Envato Elements. I probably could have generated with AI, but I didn't. So this is Envato. If you've ever used this website, they have lots of great assets and things like that. I got a subscription a couple years ago, and I've liked using it. But one cool thing they have is they have 3D objects. So if I go to trash cans down here, I search for trash can, and they have photos. But the better thing is if you scroll down, they have 3D assets here. So if I do show all here, I don't know where the one I used is. I used one of these trash cans. Trash can. Yeah, this is the one I used. So what you can do is there's a 3D renderer here, and it takes a second or two to load the thing. But you can actually rotate it to the angle you want, and then you can download the PNG of this, and it's a transparent PNG. So I downloaded that, and you know, you shouldn't do this, but I downloaded it. I downloaded it because I have a subscription, just in case anyone out there is watching this. And what I did is I just kind of composited them here, and you know, the Adobe thing, it's just a it's a no problem, Zimoa. The Adobe thing was just a thing that I clipped into a shape like that. So that's another example of using the thumbnails there. And you know, I've used those are kind of the basic techniques I have. So, but there are other ones. I'm thinking about doing a stream on thumbnail design soon. So if you guys are interested in thumbnail design or something like that, let me know. I was thinking that would be a good subject for a topic coming soon. Now, I'll stay on for another couple minutes if you guys have any more questions and things like that. That was kind of the crash course overview and how I use MidJourney and Affinity together, along with a couple other topics, Topaz and sometimes Canva for removing backgrounds, and you know, Envato Elements for 3D stuff. I did get a question from a viewer, from Hector. So Hector, thanks for submitting this. He sent me an email, and he had a question about the prompting methods and all that. And he had these two kind of images. The first one was, you know, he wanted a cat in the style of Godzilla or something like that. And he got this result, which he didn't really like. And then later on, he got this other one because he found some other prompt that he modified and it worked better. So his question is, you know, if you look at a prompt like this, it has all these complicated terms in it. The artist, the ZBrush, you know, ZBrush Central Contest winner. Like, what does all this stuff mean? And his question was basically, how do you find these words and these terms? Hi, Wolfie, welcome. And I guess my main answer to that is, like I showed you earlier, one of the cool things is the describe option in MidJourney. So there's many ways to get the terms, the prompts. As we had the suggestion earlier, you can use ChatGPT for those types of things, but you can also use the describe functionality here. So if I go to the edit page, let's find something that let's find some art, there's some type of style that we want to recreate. Okay. So let's go to like Google, and let's go, I don't know, let's say like, 1970s dragons or something like that. So you can find like, some type of style you're into. I don't know, like what would be a good one. Let's say, something like this. So let me open the image in a new tab. If I can. Maybe it's not available. Yeah. So I'll take this image, and if you go to MidJourney, I'll edit from a URL. And then I'll use the, it's not there, I'll use the suggest prompt option. And that's one way to get a lot of these ideas for things. So you can see it says, 70s book cover art, it suggests an artist, has all this type of, these stylistic options. And, that's one way to get these type of terms. Another way is simply to use the Explore tab, like I said. You know, your prompt was kind of related to like Godzilla. I'd say Godzilla. And maybe cat also. It'll show you like who did like Godzilla cat type things, you know. So, you know, this is an interesting one. And that's kind of the way you get ideas for prompts. Like I said, there's other ones. There are, you know, PDFs and guides that people make that you know, they sell or they just give away for free. There's all sorts. There's like endless versions of like where to find these prompts and stuff. But I think this Describe tool is a useful one. ChatGPT could be useful, and also just searching the Explore tab on the page is useful. I think it's one of those things that's always evolving, and I think it's going to change as time goes on. I think this idea of like hunting for the right word is kind of going to go away, and it's going to be more about giving it references that you want, which, by the way, is an option here. You can actually upload images for references, which I didn't really talk about today, but that's another way. So I hope that answered some of your question, Hector. Saul, reading your question. So yeah, you're asking what would be a good software for taking web page design and turning it into a working web page. I just haven't done that recently, so I'm not sure like what the current state is. But I think you may want to try some of those AI tools. I think I've seen people online using like Cursor AI and some of these other tools where they just describe a website that they want and it just generates it, or they can upload an image. So I'll have to get back to you on the exact things, but I've seen people do. I've seen people like just automate it these days where you can give it a mock-up. I know there was Figma, but I think there's another one now. I've been doing some research into this lately, and one keeps coming up. It's not a use case I have these days, but I've seen people mention it, just like these prototyping tools. Teak, you're saying Dreamweaver. Yeah, I don't know if that's still even around, but that was one back in the old days. Wolfie, pricing isn't great. For what? And James O'Block, reading your question. So you're saying, James O'Block, you're saying Krita has a stable diffusion plugin. That's cool. Yeah, I've definitely, maybe I'll check that out sometime. Stable diffusion, as far as I know, you have to run it on your local machine, right? So that's kind of a big learning curve for some people. And you obviously have to have a powerful machine too. So that might be an issue. But if you have the horsepower to do it, definitely give it a shot. And let us know how it goes. I just haven't tried it yet. I like Krita, I just haven't integrated it with Stable Diffusion yet. Mr. Joe, reading your question. Yeah, you're saying you wish Affinity Photo let you automatically import as rasterized. Yeah, I don't know of that option. You know, whether it's a setting or something. I just kind of always remember to do it. You know, or I always forget to do it, and then I remember to do it when it blocks me from doing something. Yeah, I just don't know if it's an option there. It would be cool though. So you're saying Photoshop does the slicing. It does that? Okay. Yeah, I haven't used it for that. I think, like I said, I think there's some AI tools are starting to start doing this automatically. You're going to give it an image, and it's just going to spit out the HTML design for you. It's going to give you a whole fully fledged website, basically. Krita has an auto installer for the AI. You can also use remote AI servers. Okay, good. Yeah, so I imagine people host, you know, Stable Diffusion on servers, and maybe you can call it remotely too. A couple years ago, I tried Stable Diffusion briefly, but my laptop was just, you know, going to burst into flames, I think, if I used it too much. Yeah, Mr. Joe, you always forget. Yeah. So that was basically the overview of what I know so far of integrating MidJourney and Affinity. It's going to be a topic I'll revisit over and over again. I'm going to do many more MidJourney videos coming up this year. That's kind of going to be one of my main focuses, just AI in general. I'm going to be doing more of those topics. I'm finding it, you know, quite interesting, and it's such a fast-growing field. So stay tuned if you want to see more of those. I'll make a note of the thumbnail stream. It seems like, you know, Teak, you said that was a thing you were into. No problem, Mr. Joe. Glad it was useful. Like I said, this is an ongoing topic, so we'll be, I think, revisiting it again at some point in the future in some form or another. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you have any questions or comments, certainly leave them below and I'll reply to them and I'll answer them on stream next week. So thanks everyone for watching. Have a great afternoon and see you next time. Bye.